This is David. We'll call him David 1. Alone he lives within his house that is far too small for some. He barely goes outside and his clothes, they barely fit. He's a weak, pathetic loser and he near always smells of... Let's move on. This is also David. Let's say he's David 2. A successful man who probably makes more money than me and or you. But once upon a time did these two characters split? Let's take it back to that fateful day when David started to slip. Our hero's story begins on a day like any other. We're looking at a time when David still lived with his mother. Inside his house, David slept like a mouse. As his alarm bell sung, David 2 arose to the sunlight's golden glow, while David 1 remained unstunned. With pep in his step, David 2 walked out the door, while David 1 continued to snore. His eyes, they widened as he saw what the time was, and out of bed he jumped. He threw on his clothes, picked up his bag, and on to school he's run. Along the way, they pass a homeless guy. As David 2 spares some change, David 1 hurries on by. We'll cut to later, a long day's gone by, and David 2 feels pride, whilst David 1, his shoulders slouched, can't wait to get home and unwind. A couple games with the boys, David 1 promised himself, but 2 games turned into 4, then 8, then 12. After completing all of his studies, David 2 lay rest in bed, whilst David 1 played late into the night until on his keyboard rested his head. Another day, another dollar, said David 2, his head held high above his shoulders, yet David 1, forever slouched, could feel himself getting older. On the way back home, with exams approaching, David 2 denied a request to go to a party of his friends to which David 1 would accept. And so David 1 went, to get absolutely smashed, to have fun with his friends, while David 2 prepared for exams. Studying, partying, checking of lists, flirting with chicks, until, finally, rest. Ding ding ding, we're at school. David 2, chuffed with his marks, had a smile that shone with glee. But David 1, though his friends poked fun, was indifferent to the marks he had received. Just look at him. Out of school, where boys become men, David 2 did indeed thrive. After graduating uni at the top of his class at a stockbroker company, he was hired. Giving presentations about meaningless figures is what David 2 did do best. With his stocks going up, he was rolling in cash. His fortunes were still to come yet. Oh no, David, no, what are you doing? They're never going to accept you in. No unis, no workplaces, big, small, or homegrown, it started to get under his skin. When finally walking upon a cobble street path, did David find something called to him. A job as a cleaner of toilets. It wasn't much, but it was his. Stocks, the economy's on the move, and David 2 is winning, whilst David 1 throws a couple of bucks at some horses, which isn't forgiving. Liberty Hill Estate, what a place to live, thought David 2 aloud, whilst David 1 stood on the street corner after being kicked out of his parents' house. What a life, the sun, the bread, the grapes, the food, all hand-fed. But David 1, as unlucky as they come, is struggling under his debts. And so here we are, back up to scratch, the 2 living in heaven and hell. But despite all his wealth, his fortune and success, David 2, he hates himself. Constantly living to others' uptight expectations, he knew not how to deal with emotions, and so when at home, no smile all alone, he cried and wept in self-loathing. Through the thick and thin, David 1 learned to look within, and became in touch with himself. And even though the world seemed to put him down, he made good with the hand he was dealt. David 1 was happy. But are we forgetting something here? Through David 2's generosity, the homeless man was able to get out of poverty. That man now drives this van. And as for David 1, well, he really has one. So, what's the meaning in all of this? Don't donate to homeless people. That's the other script. Look, I'm not telling you to be like David 1 or 2. I'm just saying that life is absurd. Every decision, good or bad, comes with ups and downs, and inevitably, life is what you make it of. Don't take it too seriously, but also, don't let it slip by. Make something of it. This is David, and he's living life.